You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Morning.
Hello, Ray.
How are we going? I hope you're all fantastic, safe and well. You've all had a great weekend. Happy Easter. Chocolates. You guys get chocolates yet?
Not yet,
for
mate.
me. Not for me.
Not
Next
yet.
week for me.
Do you guys even like chocolate?
Yes, mate.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
Welcome to Three's a Crowd, the Northeast Football Podcast, where we talk football, sadly, once a week. And, you know, we have to, I guess. Sometimes you just have to rock up even when you don't want to. Today's one of those days. The only team that we can talk about that has played in the past week is in Middlesbrough. So I guess we're going to get into that pretty early on. And then we're going to move on to some happier things like what Ted had for breakfast or something like that. I hope you've all had a great week. Football sucks.
I'm not allowed to talk about what I've had for breakfast.
Smash monitors. I'm still down. Did you guys? I smashed my monitor last night.
Yes.
Did you guys?
Oh,
I actually punched it and it's gone. I don't know if I. Yes. I am not okay. Hope you're all fantastic, safe and well. Welcome to Three's a Crowd. Let's get into it. It is Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Sunderland on the agenda. Newcastle and Sunderland have enjoyed a good week off. You've got the Easter long weekend off, lads. You've come off the international break. It is a good break going into the last games. Bit happening in the Premier League. Obviously, Tottenham getting a new manager. Chelsea starting to ban players from playing for criticising their own club. We might get the lads' thoughts on that because they're in the Premier League. And Middlesbrough are never going to be, so we don't need to worry about that. We don't need to talk about that either. But let's go into the thing that everyone's still talking about hot off the press is Middlesbrough losing to Millwall yesterday. And losing to a striker that we sold in the summer to Millwall that we deemed not good enough to play for us anymore, yet he's outscored every single striker we've bought this season. Fun. Teddy boy, you said to me yesterday, mate, that you knew it was going to be Coburn. I knew it was going to be Coburn. I think we all knew it was going to be Coburn. Mate, I went in with full of optimism. We come off the international break. 45 minutes, we played them off the park. The first half, we absolutely played them off the park. We should have been 60 goals up. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous, mate. I'm just going to give you guys a quick stat for those that didn't watch it, right? So yesterday, right, the last three teams to lose a championship game when having 30-plus shots and 50-plus touches in the opposition box is Middlesbrough, yesterday against Millwall, Middlesbrough versus Charlton 23 days ago, and Leeds versus Wigan 12 years ago. So Middlesbrough have broken this record twice in the space of a month for the only team to lose a championship game when having 30-plus shots and 50-plus touches in an opposition box. You can see what Kim Hellberg is trying to do, but holy freaking chopsticks to the eyeballs, is it painful when we just cannot come away with 3 points and we cannot score a goal. Teddy, I'll come to you first, mate. I'm down. I'm genuinely down.
Oh.
My football, I love football. I love my football club, but it's like getting broken up. It's like, I don't think a girlfriend has ever broken my heart as much as Middlesbrough Football Club.
I don't know what you want me to do with that phrase.
I want you to repair it. I want you to repair my heart. Tell me that it's going to be okay.
It might not be.
Oh my God.
Because to be honest, the form, and when you look at Ipswich obviously chasing you down as well, Ipswich have 2 games in hand on you. It's a concerning wobble now. I've been quite bullish, I guess, since around about Christmas time, saying absolutely firmly believe that you'll go up. I still think you will, but I think you're playoff bound. if I'm being perfectly honest with you. What Alex Neil is, and I've said his name, I never normally say his name, Voldemort, is a very astute tactician at that level. He's a very good championship manager. And yeah, he's getting his best out of a pretty much a cobbled together squad. It's not it's not like a Wrexham where there's absolutely millions. They're just well organised, mate, and he knows what he's doing. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of the man for obvious reasons, but what they did was absolutely play to their strengths and absorbed a lot of pressure. They're not a bad footballing side. They're not like a kick it and lump it kind of team, but after being dominated the way they were, absolutely hit you with two sucker punch exactly.
My daughter. Oh no, my daughter needs me. I better get off the pod, lads. I'm so sorry.
All right, okay, yeah.
We'll take him out for now.
We'll take him out for a second.
He's organised that. So he doesn't have to talk about them. I mean, I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch the game, to be honest. All I saw was, the result. And to be honest, I felt for Rai, because obviously from his perspective, he's got. He's got so much riding on this. But you're right. You look at the league table now, and Ipswich are in the driving seat. They've got 2 games in hand. Yeah. They've got a really good team. Ipswich. I think Ipswich will now go up second. I don't think it'll be Millwall. I think the biggest worry for Borough is now facing Millwall in the playoffs, because Millwall's got Borough's number. That's going to be the problem. Yeah. And like I said last week, if they do lose these games, maybe they need to go down the Sunderland route of now working towards the playoffs, starting to think about what they're going to do in the playoffs, how they're going to do things, what they're going to change, and maybe he's resting these players, because it's such a hard league. Like we've said this before, it's such a hard league to get out of, and look, Borough could turn this around. I'd rather be going through a bad run now than going through a bad run when it comes to playoff games. If you're not going to get promoted automatically, then that's that. I mean, I think what the last few results have done is make sure that Coventry have got promoted. They're up now, the champions, and champions elect. But that second place now, I can't see past Ipswich. I think Ipswich will win, no doubt about it. I think, and I think Borough confined to the playoffs. But I think that's the way forward, right? I think you've got to start looking at that now. You've got to start looking at the playoffs and saying, right, what do we do? How do we change things? What do we, what can we do to make sure that we, we cement our place here? I mean, it goes down as far as Derby, you're not going to not be in the playoffs, so you need to start thinking about it, right? That's what you need to start thinking about.
Yeah, look, I mean, a prospective man is that we are still had a very good season, in a season where we had Rob Edwards, and we started off with Rob Edwards in what I would have argued when he came in was told probably mid-table. Sorry, I mean, I doubt that Rob Edwards was brought in and told you must aim for promotion. I mean, after Michael Carrick left, I feel like it was going to be a bit of a rebuild or something like that. And somehow we've had success, or enough success this season, to put ourselves into the driving seat. The hardest thing, I think, is that we saw it coming in terms of not scoring goals. But the most frustrating thing is that we are dominating these games. We are having 80% possession in most games. We just cannot put the ball in the back of the net. And the frustrating thing is that if we had a Josh Coburn leading the line at Middlesbrough, we would be second, if not first. Do you know what I mean? And that's the frustrating, that's the crux of it. And I think that's what has shocked me the most, is that how much we've struggled to score goals under Kim Helberg. He's got a fantastic game plan. And I think if he had been given the tools, especially in January, where we only signed Castledine, we only signed Sarmiento and Finn Munro. They were the 3 signings in January. If he had have been backed in January to say, right, here's a striker of whatever proportion, do you know what I mean? Someone that we know is proven to score goals at championship level, I think we could be a lot higher than we are. And it's just frustrating. And it's, ever since 2009, when Gareth Southgate took us down, we've been battling to get back into the Premier League. And we had the chance to do it in 2016 where we did come up, but we did it the hard way then as well. We had to wait till the last day of the season with Aitor Karanka, and we had to beat Brighton at home. Do you know what I mean? And even then there was some doubt about, Karanka had fallen out with Stuart Downing and he didn't rock up to a game and all this sort of stuff. There's always something. And it's just never the easy way for us. And I'm not sure if you guys feel the same with Sunderland and Newcastle respectively, but Middlesbrough fans are feeling it today. And it's just never been the easy way. And I think we've got to come to terms with that. We're going to have to do it the hard way. And if that's through the playoffs, then it's through the playoffs. The big thing for me, lads, is that we're still missing Hayden Hackney, Morgan Whittaker, our top goal scorer, funny enough, Sammy Silvera, who I thought's had a fantastic breakout season, and Leo Castledine, who was that signing in January, who hasn't come through. So, if we were to get them back in the next couple of weeks, I think that would be a massive task. The games ahead are not as hard as it will be against Millwall. We have got Ipswich Town in, I think, 3 games' time, but we're going to come up against teams that are still Teddy Boy doing that low block because they're teams that are struggling to stay in the championship, teams like Portsmouth and the likes, who are trying to grasp for every single point they can to stay in the championship, where we're trying to win 3 points. We saw what it can be like yesterday when teams open up and want to play football and not want a low block, that we can dominate possession and get chances to score. It's just putting the ball in the bloody back of the net that just seems to be evading us. It's frustrating to be a Middlesbrough fan right now, but again, the best thing about the championship, as you guys will know, is that we've got a game just around the corner. Middlesbrough now play Monday, obviously Easter Monday, and it's a quick turnaround. It's a couple of days off for Middlesbrough to forget about Millwall and come back against Swansea on Monday. And you guys still haven't played a game yet until next weekend, which is funny enough. But Middlesbrough will have played 2 in that time, and with 5 games to go after that one. So it's incredible to think. But if we look forward to the Swansea game, it's a Middlesbrough going to Swansea as well. And honestly, Middlesbrough have been performing so much better away from home. Have you ever had a squad, lads, in your time in supporting your team where they seemingly perform better away from St. James's or Stadium of Light, respectively? Steve, do you remember a Newcastle United team that you can recall that literally was better away from home than at home?
For years in my time supporting Newcastle, we've always struggled away from home and been better at St. James's Park. I think Eddie Howe's probably changed the narrative slightly with the last 5 years. We've done quite well. Christ, we went on a period of time where we couldn't win in London. I think it was something like 28 years or something like that. We struggle to win at some of these clubs. That was part of the course back in the days. Teams were more dominant at home. It's frustrating though, mate. That your home games. Your home games let you down. And this is what happened under Carrick.
Yeah,
Carrick had big games at home, and he lost his job because he couldn't win those big home games. Yep. I don't know what it is, whether it's the pressure. Sometimes players just can't handle the pressure. But you mentioned Hackney and stuff. You've had injuries, right? You've been hampered with injuries.
Yeah.
And I think that's played its part this season. Newcastle and Middlesbrough struggled to score goals, and both struggled with injuries in the wrong departments, and that's been the big problem. So I wouldn't criticize the manager as much, but the manager still has to find a way of winning when players are missing. And our 2 seasons have mirrored each other. Very, very different divisions, of course, but have mirrored each other, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because, we had it, was it similar last season or the season before when we both seemed to went through injury crises at the same time. It's funny how similar we have been. And we saw Alan Shearer come out midweek and say as well on a podcast that he's hoping Middlesbrough come back up because he remembers the Middlesbrough-Newcastle derby as well. And he called
it was going to be 6 easy points because that's backfired on him in the past.
This guy, I tell you. Look, Middlesbrough, we're going to talk about Middlesbrough again, obviously, when they come up against Swansea, but it was a very, very sore, bad loss for Middlesbrough yesterday in the terms of dropping out of the top 2 and obviously Millwall taking that spot as well. It was a game we needed to win. It was a game we had the chance to win at home as well, and it wasn't to be. So we will lick our wounds and we will have to go again because the championship is ruthless and we need to be ready to go on Monday as well. And Kim Hellberg has got a mighty task to try and find some goals in that squad because at the moment we are struggling big time. And without the likes of Hayden Hackney, Morgan Whittaker, there is just not many goals in that team, unfortunately, hoping, that Matty Target can score a couple again or something like that. Let's move on, though. We've got Premier League football on the horizon, lads. You've had some time off to think about it. Lick your wounds, get players back in through the door. There's been some big talk in the Premier League away from both of your clubs, thankfully, for once, with some moves for a new coach in Tottenham and a couple of Chelsea players that aren't going to be playing due to speaking out against their club. Shocked me that Chelsea players are doing that when you've got 60,000 of them in your ranks, but it is what it is. But Teddy boy, Sunderland, mate, they've had some time off. They're getting some injuries back. You've got a massive run when you do get back into the games, mate. And honestly, a successful season so far. And I think coupled by some new deals as well. But you do have Tottenham when we come back to playing football, and Tottenham have a new manager in Roberto De Zerbi. He has caused some criticism from Tottenham fans as well. But, I don't think they were ever going to be happy with whoever they wanted to appoint. But your thoughts quickly, as being Sunderland fan, that you're going to be coming up against Tottenham in their Roberto De Zerbi's first game in trying to stay in the Premier League.
He's not the right man. He's maybe the right man in a long-term sense for Tottenham. But right now, and as much as we laugh and joke about it, somebody like a Big Sam character would have been exactly what they need, because they need to stop conceding goals. De Zerbi, his sides play attacking football. It's very nice to watch, but you've got to have the confidence and the belief that starts at the back going forward. And right now, Spurs haven't got that. And I'm really surprised, because most Premier League sides would probably take De Zerbi as a coach if they lost theirs. They'd kind of be happy with it. Yeah. It's absolutely split the Spurs fan base,
hasn't it,
well
mate?
And truly. It's crazy. So, I mean, as much as, as a team, you always fear the new manager bounce and all that sort of thing, that old adage. But honestly, I'm not really that concerned. It just seems that they're a club in disarray, and it's actually, it's a chance for us to get a total of 4 points off them this season. Yeah. It'll be a great return. I just don't see them being well drilled enough at the back. To actually survive this, and De Zerbi is not the man to instill that kind of discipline.
It's going to be very interesting, isn't it? When obviously Sunderland come up against them, obviously, a game that you said you're looking to take points from. In terms of Sunderland's news, obviously you had David Bruce leave the club in what it's been seemingly part of a wide-ranging restructure since making it back to the Premier League. I guess your thoughts, Steve. I almost said Steve Bruce. David Bruce was a boyhood Sunderland fan, and he was pivotal in repairing that fractured relationship between the fan base and club. I feel like he was influential in getting that deal with Hummel, which has proved overwhelmingly popular. I mean, all the kits that they've delivered for you guys, I think, has been fantastic. And I think obviously he was a big part in turning over the Sunderland team that you see performing in the Premier League today. Just your thoughts on David Bruce leaving the club and the overall restructure that Sunderland's seemingly going through.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be done. If you can't stand still in business, and let's make no bones about it. Football is a business now. Yeah. And if you are going to succeed, and if you are going to develop your business, then you need to make changes. And David Bruce has done fantastically well. Local lad coming in, done very well in America with various jobs in the NFL and places like that. Like you say about the Hummel deal, then there was obviously the whole kit sales thing, the whole restructuring of that, and kind of modernizing us in many respects, and kind of burying that whole debacle of what happened, prior to his involvement with the club, where obviously they fitted out the bar in black and white for the Newcastle lads coming to visit us. So he did really, really well. It is a restructuring. I don't think there's any sort of bad blood there or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's just a case that his position as the head of business is changed. I think it's actually gone. They're going to go for a CEO instead. So it'll be interesting to see who comes in. Obviously, before that we had the Christian Speakman end of his reign as sporting director. And Gisolfi coming in instead. There was a parallel for a moment where they were working together. But you look at the pedigree of the people who we're replacing with the new people coming in, and I think it's a really, really exciting time to be part of the club. It's sad when people go and when people leave, especially when they've had a lasting impact. I love the fact that Hummel came back to Sunderland, like, as you know. If Mrs. Ted finds out how much I've been spending in the club shop while I was away in England, then I'm going to get absolutely murdered for it. But it's exciting times. But like I say, we'll move on. There's obviously been contract extensions for a couple of players as well. But we're not daft. We know that means that just improves the transfer fee that clubs have to pay for them. So it's all part of as Steve knows. Steve and yourself have seen plenty of people in backroom positions who've come and gone. But like I say, if you've got to grow and develop and become an established Premier League side, that's the thing that we've got to do.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic. We will talk obviously about Sunderland taking on Spurs in the second half of the show. Over to Newcastle, where we've been without their being left alone in the media, so they can focus on the international break, the long extended break, as Eddie Howe's future came into question. Craig Hope, being the fantastic Steve Wraith reporter that he loves, coming out saying midweek and doing an article saying Eddie Howe's future's in doubt ahead of a turbulent summer, and the club would have to sell Sandro Tonali or Anthony Gordon to raise funds if they don't make the Champions League. We also saw the new deal with the energy drink, I think, for your training ground as well, to help hopefully with those PSR goals. What are you thinking, Steve, about it all? And I guess how are you reacting to Craig Hope and his article midweek about and it was on the back of obviously speaking about the financial outcomes of Newcastle?
Yeah, I mean, David Hopkinson gave a briefing to journalists on the record and off the record. So, every journalist has had their say. I mean, Luke Edwards came out and said that Tonali, Gordon, Livramento all have a price. He'd more or less said that Gordon and, Tonali were around about 100 million. They'd take 60 million for Tino. So, Craig Hope's just one of many journalists who is making a story out of, the briefing that they've had, like on the record and off the record, as I said. So, I mean, the positive news from Hopkinson is, Newcastle's turnover has increased. Obviously, the books that they've laid out in front of everybody this year don't include Isaac Steele. They don't include the Champions League. So we know one thing for certain, that next year is going to be bigger and better. Probably the best set of records that we've ever had. PSR is no longer a thing. It's now squad cost ratio, SCR, which we're going to have to start talking about. So no longer will you have to balance the books the way that we've had to, over the first 5 years of the takeover. So it's really going to affect Newcastle if they don't qualify for Europe, for example. That will affect them. We have seen Newcastle announce as well as part of their books that they're going to have to, they're probably going to get fined by UEFA. And we won't get point deductions anymore. What people will get is big financial fines. Newcastle have sold the lease to the stadium to a parent company, which is, they call it good housekeeping. But UEFA may not see it that way. Newcastle may get a financial fine. But all of that is really complicated. You have to be an accountant really to understand a lot of the stuff that they were talking about. But in a nutshell, Newcastle will certainly be looking to sell a player or two in the summer. They will be offloading a few players who are out of contract, and they are going to be active in the market. That's what we got out of what David Hopkinson said. The Eddie Howe comments, well, obviously it was the official channels. They're going to push, they're not going to push the buttons and upset the apple cart with Eddie, from inside the club. But, basically when he was referring to, to Eddie Howe and, the commitment levels, would he still be here next season kind of thing? It's more of a like, we've got 7 games to go. Let's see where we're at the end of the 7 games. We've sat down, we've talked to Eddie. It's what's good for him and what's good for the club. So there was no stamp of authority. If he'd come out and wholeheartedly said, Eddie's got our full backing, we're behind Eddie, then the media would have come out this week and said he's had the vote of confidence. So David Hopkinson can't really win, can he? I guess it doesn't matter what he says. If he comes around and says that, then it would have been headlines anyway. So look, they've met, they've sat, they've discussed things. Does Eddie Howe want to continue? Is what I would say. Does Eddie Howe want to stay in Newcastle United? Does he think, like he said prior to going out to the Champions League and the FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup semi-finals, around about that period, he said, I will know when the time is to quit. I'll know when I can't take it on any further. And you would get the impression that that Eddie's honest enough to do that. And I think it would be a mutual agreement. I think they would come to a mutual agreement. I certainly don't think Eddie would resign. I think that would be the wrong message. And I certainly don't think that the club would want to sack Eddie Howe. So I think there would be some deal. Don't be behind closed doors. It would be a mutual agreement, and they would be off. They would be off and would have somebody new in. I was speaking to John Gibson this week on the podcast, and Gibbo's followed Newcastle around for many, many years and covered Newcastle for many years. And he was referring to what Jack Charlton used to say, that managers have a 5-year cycle. And that 5-year cycle is essentially, from his perspective, it's a staleness that happens. People get stale, managers get stale, players get stale, and you have to change things. So you either change the manager or you change the players, or both. So that's where we're in. Really, that's a position we're in. That's a situation we're in, and we can't change it. But look, from Newcastle's perspective, it's not doom and gloom. We've got 7 cup finals. We've got 7 games to get back into Europe. We've got some tough games. I've asked a lot of people this week, what they see we're getting at. I genuinely only think Newcastle can get, I would say, 9 points, and it's not going to be enough to get Europe. I don't see where the optimism comes for Newcastle suddenly starting to bang goals in and score goals. I think we've got 6 players who are all, I'd say 6, probably 5, because I can't see Aaron Ramsdale going to the World Cup. But we've got 5 players genuinely who probably have got their eye on England. Anthony Gordon, Dan Burn, Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall, and now Harvey Barnes are all now looking, thinking, I don't want to get injured. I could be in that World Cup squad. And that's not to mention the lads who play for the other international teams. We've got Wissa now, who's very rarely played with Newcastle this season, is now going to the World Cup. Tonali might squeeze in if Iran get booted out. So there's loads of connotations for this summer. We just don't know what's going to go on. But it's not doom and gloom. I think we've been in a lot worse situations, and I'm not gonna get too downhearted about it. It's just enjoy the last 7 games, and then look forward to the summer and hopefully the rebuild, whether that's management and players or just players. Hopefully the PIF get it right.
Are you expecting a summer rebuild after those comments? I mean, I would be, after reading it in depth, trying to understand what Craig Hope was trying to say. It does sound like at least one of Sandro Tonali or Anthony Gordon would leave. Are you expecting more to follow out? I mean, we've spoken about this a couple of times in the past couple of seasons, Steve, where we get to it in the likes of Kieran Trippier and Dan Burn and their age and stuff like that. Are you expecting there's going to be a big turnover at some point? Because we keep seemingly predicting it, and then it doesn't seem to happen, and you seem to be left with, status quo a little bit. But at some point, the likes of Trippier, Dan Burn, and that, and you've done it with Malik Chor and stuff like that, and obviously the Walter Mata experience and stuff like that. He's come out midweek and tried to defend himself now on social media as well. Are you expecting some of those, like big changes in that department, or are you thinking that it'll just be a couple out, couple in?
It's where the rumours about the managerial change come in, isn't it? Newcastle can't afford to offload Walter Mata and Wissa after spending so much money on them. So Eddie must be under pressure to try and find a way to accommodate them. I mean, it's quite clear in the international games, and look, international football. Unless you're playing the top 10 in the world, it's easy. It's not like the Premier League. It's easy to look good against some of these substandard teams. But Walter Mata is definitely a forward. He's not a midfielder. So it's no wonder that he's come out and tried to defend himself. He's got his professional career to think about. But I think that those players will need to find a way to adapt and play as part of Newcastle United's team. That might not be under Eddie Howe. I think if you're gonna push it on two names that I think will leave, I think it'll be Tino and Tonali. I think Tino's already checked out. I think he's already checked out on the way that he plays the way that he's played since he come back. The goal we conceded against Sunderland in the derby was just, was essentially the biggest pointer to me that he's just not the player that he has been, and it's sad. And Tonali, I mean, people are going, he owes us, but he's played his part, he's helped us win a trophy. Does he owe us really? And if the rumours are correct, maybe that his missus isn't as happy on Tyneside as he was or she was initially, then maybe it is just time to go. But anybody who's not committed to Newcastle, you just let them go. And players will want European football. It's just the way it is. We've just got to make sure that we sign the right players. This time round, we can't afford to go and waste money on players. We need to sign the right players. And we need to get the best out of the players that we've signed. That's the problem. So, yeah, it's a huge summer. The one thing I'll agree on that all the journalists have said, it's a huge summer. Last summer was a huge summer. Losing Isak, we should have replaced him. We didn't. So this summer is a bigger summer than last summer. And, a hell of a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive summer. We're going to be very, very interesting for all three Northeast clubs, especially in where they lie as well. And it does look like, obviously, Sunderland are going for a bit of a restructure in the boardrooms and stuff like that, doesn't it, Teddy Boy? Away from the pitch, they seem to have had their summer rebuild with the players, and it now looks like they're getting their back room sorted as well, which is going to be interesting. And then Newcastle doing it seemingly on the pitch, as well as Middlesbrough maybe doing it on the pitch as well. But we will have to digress. We're going to take a quick break because we're going to sit back. We're going to have a laugh because I need a laugh. I tell you what, do I need a laugh? I'm getting absolutely destroyed here on social media as well. It is time for everyone's favourite. It's time for Troll of the Week.
And breaking news from the Daily Daffy, local man recalled time when Leo Sayers said he looks like Sam from Cheers. He told our reporters, he made me feel like dancing.
Oh.
Other news in the Courier, major blowjobs for Dundee, as a whole host of people start moving up there. And
Good, I've something to look forward to there.
In court, I've no idea where my pants are. A drunk, naked man who had no idea where his trousers or underpants were told police he just wanted to find a Chinese takeaway. Interesting stuff. Car crime as well in London this week. Someone smashed a window and chucked a load of Spurs tickets in. And as it is Easter, Ted sent us this. Thank you, Ted. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I did have access to the Lord's WhatsApp group this week. Jesus said, one of you will betray me. Peter replied, not me, Lord. Who? And then Judas Iscariot left the group. Exclusive, understand an unnamed Arsenal player is set to miss the Premier League title running due to planning circumcision surgery against the club's wishes. Manager Mikel Arteta is said to be furious as the surgery is purely for cosmetic reasons and completely unnecessary, says Francis Chipp.
I love him so much.
And cancelled Sky today. Latest increase was £108.50 just for a TV package. Sky News is unwatchable. Football is akin to loose women dramas. Are infested with woke virtue signalling. About 90% of the channels are just fillers. They offered a reduction to £87.50, gone after 25 plus years. I think most of us could certainly agree with a lot of that. Jason Poulton said the biggest irony in football is Jamie Carragher, who never won the Premier League title, comes on TV every week and tells managers what they should do to win the Premier League. Good point. And Pamela Carvel says, if this doesn't improve, I'm heading home at half time. I'd rather do my ironing. Which did make me chuckle when I saw that. These are amazing shoes, lads. You can take a shit in your next door neighbour's garden and blame the dog. Alexander Isak will be going to the World Cup, says Samuel. Thanks to Victor Gyökeres, says Lee with the silver. It's an anniversary this week, lads, and it's a great anniversary. David Beckham, of course, a wonderful, wonderful player, great ambassador for England as well, carried out this wonderful manoeuvre while he was out with his lass and got absolute pelters from it. Look at the reassuring hand.
My God.
It's great when you have a football match and you get a chance to get players' autographs.
Oh, bless them.
And today, lads, I gave me dead batteries away. They were free of charge. In the world of football, Liverpool are often referred to inbreds, bin dippers, gobshites, A, B, and C. And when she finally says yes, and you realise it wasn't a condom you were carrying around for the past 9 years. And phoned the tin at the helpline earlier, lads, but it just kept ringing.
Oh, God almighty, man.
And finally, thanks to Ted, his Christmas card finally arrived from Cyprus. Thanks for that, Ted.
Wow.
Sure, that's a young Ted up there in the top left.
So my hair was never that good. My mother used to cut mine, I think.
If you've got any tweets, send them over to me, Rye or Ted at our usual socials, and we'll bring the cat out next week.
Oh, it's been a tough old podcast. Welcome back to Three's a Crowd, the only Northeast football podcast where we bring Sunderland, Newcastle and Middlesbrough together for a bit of banter, a bit of laugh. We've had no football for Newcastle and Sunderland now for the best part of 2 weeks. They've got another week off before they will be facing their Premier League opposition in Spurs and Crystal Palace. Middlesbrough have already played yesterday. We've spoken about that in the first half of the show. No monitors were broken. We've already been down one, so thankfully there's been no monitors broken in this podcast. So we're good to go with the second half of the show now, and we're going to keep
Newcastle United have just confirmed and announced that Kieran Trippier is going to leave Newcastle at the end of the season.
There you go. Yeah. Wow.
The time has come to leave this amazing club after 4.5 years. This is where I've felt most at home. It's emotional, and I'm really going to miss it.
Wow. There you go. Breaking
news. Still pop back and visit the hotels and that, can't he?
Ted. Eddie Howe said, Kieran has been magnificent for us on and off the pitch. From the moment he walked through the door, he's helped to drive standards that have changed the club's trajectory. Pretty good.
It's going to be a big miss, like. It will be a big miss.
I mean, probably Newcastle United's most important player since the takeover. And I think from our perspective, as important as Brian Kilcline was when Kevin Keegan signed him. So, yeah, for me, he goes with our best wishes. But at least it's well in advance. We know what the situation is and we know, what we've got to cope with, But it's sad. He's a club captain and it's going to be a big player to replace.
Wow, there you go. Breaking news on the pod. Kieran Trippier will leave Newcastle United in the summer. Question is, will he play on? Is there enough juice in those legs? I mean, I think Kieran Trippier could do a decent job in the Championship if he was to drop down there. I'm not too sure that he would. Maybe a team that comes up, much like the role we've seen Kyle Walker do at Burnley as well. Maybe that experience of the Premier League and stuff like that. Would he go back to Spain or something like that as well? It's all, the world is his oyster now.
He still wants to play, right? He still wants to play. So he still wants to continue to play. He doesn't want to coach yet, but he is interested in coaching moving forward. But yeah, 100% he's keen on playing on. So yeah, wish him all the best. He's been brilliant and certainly somebody who, will always be fondly remembered by Newcastle United fans.
It was a fantastic signing in getting him back.
Was he the first one? He was the first one after the takeover, wasn't he?
He was the biggest signing, the first signing who came in. I think, there was him and then Dan Burn quickly followed. But yeah, I mean, Trippier coming, especially, at the peak of his career, still playing for England. He was, he was the one he was the catalyst that led to other players coming, the likes of Dan Burn, etc. Came up, obviously Geordie lad, but, from our perspective, Trippier confirming that he wanted to play for Newcastle and sign on the dotted line changed things. And I think I remember his debut was against Cambridge at home in the FA Cup. Newcastle were awful that day, but we lost 1-0, went out in the FA Cup at home to Cambridge. But there was a big difference. The organisation, the change that Trippier brought, the influence he had on other players, just fantastic.
Yep, here, Newcastle United Supporters Club coming out saying Kieran Trippier will leave Newcastle United this summer. First player to believe in the project in an incredible 4.5 years that followed. Champions League qualification and Carabao Cup winner. Thank you, Trips, and good luck for the future. And it's going to be, I think, all best wishes out for Kieran Trippier as well. It's going to be absolutely incredible to see if Middlesbrough can get any points at Swansea on Monday, lads. That is the next game we will talk about before we head into Premier League football once again. Steve he just sneaks it in.
It's every week, man.
It is. It's every week. He just gets it in, doesn't he? We've got massive game coming up on Monday night, lads, especially after that defeat to Millwall. Middlesbrough travelled to Swansea. It was funny enough, Swansea, that we almost stole, you would argue that we stole Kim Hellberg from Swansea. We're in the process of trying to announce and appoint Kim Hellberg as their new coach at the time, and Middlesbrough swooped in and managed to get the deal done after Rob Edwards left abruptly that week. So we did manage to get Kim Hellberg signed on the dotted line. So this is a team that we could have been facing against in Kim Hellberg had things have been different. He is now at the helm, and he's got a mighty task over the next 2 days, lads, especially over Easter, to try and find some goals and to pick the lads up. I mean, we had the likes of Riley McGree and Ada Morris, who travelled back from Australia and USA respectively. They literally landed the same time on that Thursday midday around 12:30 that they were then playing both played 90 minutes of football against Millwall at the Riverside. Kim Hellberg saying we've got to take the risks. These are the boys, that's what they're here for. They're the best players at our club. They have to be out in that field for the full 90 minutes. He said that, there's no chance now for them to rest, because if we do, then we're losing, some of the best players that we've got, capable. So no rest for the wicked, unfortunately, jumping off the plane, jet lagged or not. Ada Morris and Riley McGree did play both full 90 minutes, even some Borough fans questioning it, but it's going to be interesting. Let's look forward to Swansea. Teddy boy, it's going to be very hard motivationally for the fans. I think yesterday was a very big kick in the guts in terms of what we were expecting and what we got delivered to us, I guess you could say, especially that it was Josh Coburn as well. I don't want to write that off. I think there was a lot more in it because it was Josh Coburn, someone that we had on the books, less than 6 months ago. So going to Swansea, at least it's away from home. We're going to travel in numbers as we always do. We are still in third, being prospective about it. But my God, do we need a big performance on Monday, mate, against Swansea?
Yeah, you just happen to be going up against the Championship's top scorer in Zan Vibotnik. That's easy enough for me to say. 18 goals this season. To be honest, looking at the league table, which I am right now, Swansea would be absolutely right in the thick of relegation if it wasn't for their striker. That's a given. It's never an easy side to play against, to be honest. I remember we've struggled against them in the past, but this is a game that, despite having the top scorer among their ranks, this is a game that Borough should be going to win. I think it's great timing that you haven't got too long to think about it. About the defeat. It's back on the training pitch. It's back to putting things right. Sooner or later, the amount of shots that you're having is actually going to bear fruit. It'll just, honestly, we've all seen it. It happens with players. It happens with clubs. You'll get a striker that will go for months and months and months without scoring a goal.
Yeah,
Erling Haaland's a great example of we don't doubt the fact that there's quality there. And it just takes one goal and the rest will absolutely follow. And I think it's just one of those cases where you're just waiting for Borough to go and whack 3 or 4 past somebody. And I think the season will be back on track again. And everybody will be wondering what all the fuss was about. But they've got to defend well, because obviously 18 goals in the Championship is no mean feat. I'm just looking at who else is up there as well. Jack Clark, third highest goal scorer in the Championship with 14 goals again. Talk about finding your level. I mean, never a Premier League player for me, unfortunately. I like Jack Clark a lot, but he's not a Premier League class. But Championship level, mate, my God, you could have done with somebody like him in the ranks as well. Wrong, it hasn't happened, mate, and I still think, I mean, Christ, I'm being eternally optimistic about Middlesbrough here, which normally I'm absolutely ripping your bits, like an Easter egg. You've got the pieces. But no, I do. I think there's enough quality in there to pull through this. I still think you'll go up, and it's just one of those cases, mate. Get the monkey off the back, go and beat Swansea, and everybody kind of calming down again.
Yeah.
I'll get a new monitor, and we'll block that absolute tatey heat from Millwall, who keeps chirping up on our comments.
Steve, mate, on to Monday, mate, where we've got Swansea away. It's a good chance to get away from Middlesbrough, where the pressure would be quite fathomable. I think all of the, it's sometimes an away day is as good as a holiday for the players as well to get out of the cauldron. But it's going to be a tough ask, especially trying to find a way to score goals.
Yeah, I mean, Swansea was always a tough trip. I remember back in the day, back in the late 80s, you used to do Swansea and Cardiff on the same weekend. I remember Newcastle getting promoted in 83, 84, and we played both games back to back within 3 days of each other. It's always a long journey, a long schlep. I'm just looking at the table. At 16, they're on 53 points, but it's a tough ask. The goal difference is -5. They're not they're not prolific scorers, but it is a tough game. And every game's a tough game when your form's poor. But like I say, and like I said at the start of the programme, you really want to be focusing on the playoffs now. You want to be looking at this and going, actually, that's our goal now. If we need to rest players, if we need to make players, chomp at the bit for getting into the playoffs and being part of it, then, maybe that's what you need to do. But when are your players back, right? Is there any of them going to return for the playoffs?
No, well, they're talking about. It's funny you should ask, because Kim Hellberg was questioned about this in his press conference on Thursday, and he said that that Morgan Whittaker and Hayden Hackney, who arguably are two of the best players that we need to get back on the pitch ASAP, he said that they're both back training, but he wouldn't be able to reveal because he wants to keep it a secret in terms of not letting Millwall get the advantage. And I hate it. Just tell me. Do you know what I mean? I don't get it. And maybe it's this Australianism in me, but here in the AFL, they're actually required to tell the length of the injury and how many and what. If a player gets hurt, they have to tell. There's an injury list that gets put out every week by each club, and they have to say this is who's on it, this is how long they're out for, and this is the reasons. I'm not sure why it's been but it's always been a thing here in Australia, and that's why it just baffles me when it comes to the English, especially in the Championship, that there's so much secrecy. And now I'm not too sure if it's written into player contracts where they said they don't, if they're injured, maybe are they trying to get a tactical advantage? But I don't get what a tactical advantage you get by saying, oh, Hayden Hackney might be playing, and then they rock up and they've got when the teams are announced an hour and a half beforehand, and he's nowhere on the team sheet. And I don't get it. And it doesn't make sense to me. And you can't tell me that there's not ways around, teams and managers these days finding out that, oh my God, Kieran Trippier might not be playing, but he might be. Do you know what I mean? That, of course, I feel like the opposition team's going to know as much as we are. So it just baffles me. We do believe Kim Hellberg's words after the game where he said they are very close, yet Monday will come too soon. But that gives me hope that maybe next weekend, if not the weekend after, we'll see the likes of Hayden Hackney and stuff like that, because they are absolutely essential to helping us get back into that top two if not into the playoffs. If you're absolutely right, Steve, if there is a chance now that we have to just focus on the playoffs, then maybe you relax them. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you rest them up, much like Sunderland did, and you give them the time to get ready for the playoffs, because it's arguably going to be against the Millwalls or someone like that. You know what I mean? Or even Wrexham, God help us, at Disneyland. That we're going to have a firing squad, and we're going to have Morgan Whittaker and Hayden Hackney free. So to answer your question, mate, in a long-winded sentence, I'm not too sure, but we hope in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm crazy. I mean, you're looking at it could be Wrexham, it could be Southampton. You've got Hull there.
Yeah.
You're looking at Borough in there as well, and probably Millwall. I mean, it's a mouth-watering lineup. I wouldn't put it past Millwall to keep this run going, though. You just never know. It's going to be an interesting run, and it certainly is. But yeah, Borough could have done with the players back. And Graham Morton, I will pick you up on that. 100% what a job Rob Leard's done. They've got a draw at Carlisle. Yesterday, they've gone from almost certain relegation to, getting up the table. It's an amazing job. They're not going to go down now, Graham. There's no doubt about it. And fair play to Rob Elliott, who's gone back there. I know Paul Dummett's there as well, doing a little bit. There's a few people behind the scenes, but as a Gateshead lad, it's great to see Gateshead pushing away from the relegation. And everybody written them off, but it just shows you what's possible when everyone's pulling in the same direction, Graham.
It's going to be very, very interesting, and let's hope Middlesbrough can find a way past Swansea. I tell you, my goodness me. Let's move on. We've got Sunderland taking on Spurs. Can you believe it? Premier League football is finally back. 3 weeks. No, it missed me. Must feel a lot longer for a lot of others. But obviously, Teddy Boy coming off the Derby Derby victory. You lad, you've been able to ride a high for 3 weeks, but it obviously is going to come up against a tough opposition in Spurs. We were talking about it just pros, but I guess your thoughts, mate. Tottenham have got De Zerbi. It's going to be interesting to see how they line up, how they react to it all, how the fans react. And unfortunately, you're in the hot seat to take them on at first call.
Yeah, but like I said, mate, because of the appointment they've made, which is strange, I feel like it's almost this blinkered approach that Spurs think they're going to be all right, but will survive somehow, and we'll have De Zerbi to play nice football in the Premier League next season. That's not guaranteed at all. There's bigger clubs than Tottenham Hotspur got relegated as well, by the way.
Yep.
That's a fact. So, yeah, I'm looking forward just to seeing some of our players back. You mentioned about not announcing injuries before a game. Now, we were told by Regis Lebris before the derby that we could have 4 of our injured players back for that game. As it happens, none of them played. but I think it affects the mood around the camp, right?
Yeah.
I think if Regis Lebris had knew that from the start and said, right, we're not going to have Ballard, we're not going to have Mukiele, we're not going to have Roofs in goal all week, we would have been running around with our head in our hands and absolutely, worried sick about it. And it probably would have affected the squad as well. Okay. So I think by keeping Stum sometimes and playing his cards close to his chest, I think sometimes that plays into it. Obviously, there's the tactical advantage as well, of course, but I think it affects the mood massively. Okay. I think the mood going into this game, it's nice that there's been a break between the derby and this. I think if we'd gone straight into another game the next week, we would have done the most Sunderland thing ever. Turned up with the right hangover, played absolutely atrocious, and got absolutely tonked at home. I think now that everyone's like, we've all got it out of our system, absolutely brilliant, loving it, but it's back to business now, and it's back to business with some injured players coming back as well. Hopefully, there's nothing too much in the way of the international duty players coming back. I know Xhaka went off quite early, but I think that might have just been precautionary. Noah Siddiqui came off for the Democratic Republic of Congo as well. Great to see that I think there's going to be 11 Sunderland players involved at the World Cup, which I think is probably our biggest amount we've ever had. So that's wonderful to see, and I'm happy for the players that's going there without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. I might even treat myself to a Paraguay shirt, being that it's red and white, because God knows I've got no hope in England doing anything serious. But yeah, listen, Spurs not really had a happy hunting ground at the Stadium of Light. I saw my favourite ever goal at the Stadium of Light was against Spurs. Zenden scoring an absolute scorching volley against them. I think we can take it to them. I think there'll be a bit of a buzz about the place. Confidence will be high after the derby. Seeing those players back as well, I could see us winning. I really can see us beating Spurs, and I'm, I would hazard a guess and go as far as saying a 2-0 win for us.
Wow, Steve. Roberto De Zerbi is the man to lead Tottenham away from the championship. They are hanging on by a thread, mate, but they've got Sunderland in his first game, a tough old test, as Newcastle fans have come to be aware, mate. How do you see this one happening? And obviously how do you feel De Zerbi?
Obviously, we're going to be doing a show next week, aren't we? So I'd rather keep my prediction for them when I know who's playing. Yeah. But I think for me, De Zerbi's come in, and I think it's it's a little bit too late. I think the only thing that'll save Spurs from going down is Man City getting relegated. I think that's that's the thing that's hanging over everybody at the minute. You know, if they come out with a 40-point deduction for Man City because of these charges, then Man City will have to go down, which means that the team that finishes third bottom will stay up because they can't unbalance the championship. So I genuinely feel that we'll see, you know, a change of some sort, but I don't understand why De Zerbi's gone there. I really don't. I think it's a bizarre move. I think if he'd gone in before Tudor, and I know it's only a few games, but it would have made more sense. But players must be just absolutely baffled as to how and what this season is come to this. You know, I mean, don't forget, like, you've got injuries to somebody like James Maddison, right? That would have changed the whole season, really, if he'd been playing. But they've just got from one drama to another. And then the Spurs fans talking out against De Zerbi for something he said abroad is just added another dimension to it. You know, that absolutely spitting feathers that he's been given the job. And again, who's making these decisions at Spurs? Who's not reading the room as far as they're concerned? But yeah, I think it's a bizarre move. I think we've had a wonderful season as far as managerial merry-go-rounds is concerned. Yes. I can't think of a more dramatic season for it. I think we've had chaos reigning at some of our clubs like Nottingham Forest, Spurs. You know, that it's just been absolutely
Chelsea.
bonkers. I've never seen it. And Chelsea's gonna go through the same again because you can already see the players are down in tools for Leroy Rossini with his madcap ways and his bonkers statements. Now he's telling players they can't play for 2 games because they made a comment on social media. I mean, this isn't going to end well for Leroy Rossini. I've even seen some of his friends, ex-players, coming out and saying this isn't the Leroy Rossini we knew. He's lost the plot. So yeah, it's been a strange scenario, a strange situation, and I just what's going to happen next week, I don't know. But it's let's see what the squads are. Let's see what squads are available. Let's see what happens in the next week. I mean, Spurs could have another new manager by next weekend. It could all change again.
Yeah. You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. It's going to be very interesting to see. It's obviously another week ahead before we do see Premier League football, and then as we did discuss, Middlesbrough taking on Swansea in 2 games between 3-game break. I tell you what, we could do with that Premier League scheduling right about now, whether that will ever come to us or not. Arguably, lads, in the Premier League, it's seemingly, and Steve touched on it, and I want to finish up with this. Obviously, we've seen the likes that Man City. We who knows? Do you know what I mean? But I think we can guarantee that Wolves are going down. I think we're all on the same page there. I think Burnley are going to join them. I think it's that last spot between Spurs and West Ham. And I think it's those 2 teams. I think, honestly, Leeds are safe. And I think that, the teams that are floating in and around there are going to be safe thanks to West Ham and Tottenham. And it's incredible to say West Ham or Tottenham will be in the championship next season. And, if we are still in the championship, has a belief that we're going to have to go to West Ham or to Tottenham away. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be incredible. So I just want to get your lads' thoughts on Tottenham or West Ham, I guess. And Teddy Boy, I'll come to you. You've played them both this season, and you've obviously got Tottenham this weekend. For your mind, is it Tottenham or West Ham going down with Burnley and Wolves?
Oh, hands down, it's Spurs. Hands down.
Wow.
West Ham have got way more physicality and fight about them. Spurs have got no fight. They've got no grit. They just seem a divided club, both on the terraces and on the pitch as well. For me, 100% it's Spurs.
Wow, Steve, over to you, mate. The last relegation spot, as I said, I believe, and I'm locking in that it's Wolves and Burnley with either West Ham or Tottenham. I think Nottingham Forest they're just going to somehow find a way out of it, as they always do. But I do believe out of those 2 teams, mate, can you make a prediction? Who do you think will join Burnley and Wolverhampton Wanderers coming down to the championship?
Manchester City.
You reckon it's going to happen? Do you think we will hear the charges? I'm dead serious. Do you honestly believe that they will hear the charges between now and... I mean, we've got a month till the end of the season, right? There or thereabouts. There's 4 more weeks. Do you think, honestly, after waiting so long, we will hear the outcome of those between now and then?
Yeah, I think there's too much noise around it. I think we're going to hear. Will there be ballsy enough to deduct 40 points and send them down? I mean, there's definitely a rabbit off. I mean, Pep keeps scratching his head, and giving himself like bleeds on the side of his head, the scars on the side of his head. He's clearly frustrated, and I think you're looking at you're looking at the contracts that they're giving players, like, 9-year contracts, and you're thinking there's a reason that they've done that. Why have they done that? This is them planning for the worst. I wouldn't be surprised. They're not going to do it at the start of the season, because then it would just make it a farce, because they'd rather do it now. So I think we could have a big surprise if it's not Man City. If Man City would only have the result, on current form, you've got to say it's going to be Spurs. But you can't see past it. I think Forest have got enough to get out of it. West Ham, again, they're down there for a reason. It's a toss of a coin. It's going to go. I will say one thing: if it's not Man City, it'll go to the last team.
Wow, it's going to be very interesting to see how this Premier League unfolds, and we cannot wait for the action to return this weekend. We will have a podcast between now and then. We will get the lads' thoughts closer to the action. It's been a massive, massive stream. Obviously, we've had a massive podcast. Middlesbrough coming off the back of that Millwall defeat yesterday. I genuinely have been so disheartened today by my football club letting me down that it's, as I said, I'm brokenhearted today, lads, and it takes me a good 24 to 48 hours to get over it, and I don't know why, but maybe I'm just too invested and I got to relax and sit back a bit. But the things that football do to you. Middlesbrough will be travelling to Swansea on Monday. We've had our predictions. Good luck to Middlesbrough and anyone travelling to Wales for that game. We've had a massive announcement mid-show. Kieran Trippier has announced that he will be leaving Newcastle United in the summer. His playing time at Newcastle United is done. He wants to continue playing. Where that will be is unknown. And I guess just some final thoughts on that one, Steve, as it came into.
Yeah, good luck to him. He's been a great servant in Newcastle United. He goes with our best wishes. And let's hope Newcastle are working on a replacement as we speak.
Yep, fingers crossed. Teddy boy, massive week for Sunderland off the pitch. Again, it was David Bruce leaving the club, mate, in the backroom stuff. It looks like you are getting a different sort of structure in there under Kirill Lufi-Dracis as well. I butchered that completely, but you get who I was trying to say. It does look like a complete restructure for Sunderland. Oh, I can't, mate. I'm so upset. I'm copping it left, right, and centre. Look, massive restructure off the but I think Sunderland are moving in the right direction, and they're setting themselves up for future success by doing so.
Yeah, well, Literal Drury Playbus has done a fantastic job for us. That's absolutely right, mate. Yeah,
shocking. Not even
you've
close.
had a stinker of a weekend so far.
Oh, mate, I'm copping it. I'm getting tagged left, right, and centre. I'm getting messages now. Holy crap! The club's messaging me, asking me if I'm okay. It's crazy.
It happens, but hey, this is why we love the game. It's. We endure these low points, and all three of us have had them with our respective football clubs. But you're there to enjoy those. Those moments are the ones that shape you, and then the payoff is either getting into the Champions League or it's getting promoted to the Premier League, or it's beating your nearest rivals. That's the stuff we live for. And as much as it stinks some weekends, and I've been there all too many times amongst you two gentlemen's company. We've had the Michael Beale times, lads. Come on, it could be worse. You know what I mean? So listen, mate. I'm looking forward to getting back to the proper football again. I'm excited about what's happening at Sunderland Football Club. I think there's a lot more to come in the coming months and in the close season as well. Be interesting to see the shake up there. Get Regis Labrise onto an extended contract. Well, I think that's what we need. That seems
to be the massive thing, doesn't it? Just tying him down after what it's been fantastic, almost 2 seasons now, and what he's done is absolutely incredible. And like you just alluded to as well, coming off the back of Michael Beale into that appointment. What an incredible appointment it seemingly has turned out to be. Lads, that is all we got time for here on Three's a Crowd, the only Northeast football podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope we've covered everything that you needed to hear from Newcastle, Sunderland, Middlesbrough's perspective. Middlesbrough will be playing Monday. If you are travelling to that game, safe travels. We love each and every one of you. Be safe out in Wales. Enjoy some away day and lack of pressure. And we will come back next week because we've got Newcastle and Sunderland finally returning to some football in the Premier League, taking on Crystal Palace and Spurs. We will cover that right and everything that happens in the midweek. Take care of one another, be kind to one another. Thank you so much for everyone watching, and make sure you consider liking and subscribing to each of the platforms at Ted the Mackham, at Invictus, at NUFC Matters, and we will see you all next time right here on Three's a Crowd.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.